Students, this is Eric Magidson, and this is Chapter 5. Now, to me, this is a hugely important chapter to understand when we talk about being digitally literate, understanding digital security, understanding ethics, and definitely having a good understanding, if not at least a basic education to the idea of privacy on the internet. So let's go through this. This is going to be part 1 of a multi-part series discussing Chapter 5. Now, objective overviews, you can pause, you can read through these. I will cover this material in detail, so the rest of the objectives. So let's talk about digital security risks. First of all, digital security risk is any event or action that could cause a loss of or damage to a computer, mobile device, hardware, software, etc. So keep in mind that everything from somebody hacking in and getting information to somebody hacking in and changing codes so that it destroys machines. So, for example, if you're not familiar with it, check it out. Look up Stuxnet. This was an idea where a virus was injected into a computer system that ran centrifuges that made nuclear material. So the hackers' government, frankly our government, from what I understand, hacked in, changed the software, thus was able to break the centrifuges. We're talking about multi-million-dollar centrifuges just by changing some code. So that's a security risk as well. Any illegal act involving the use of computer-related devices generally is referred to as a computer crime. A cybercrime is an online or internet-based illegal act. So you've probably heard about ransomware. Most recently, this might be dated actually by the time you listen to this presentation, but the WannaCry virus basically took you downloaded it, you got it on your computer in some way, it took advantage of a Microsoft patch. By the way, when the WannaCry virus hit, it had already been patched 2 months earlier by Microsoft. So if you had that patch, you weren't going to be hit by the WannaCry virus. But basically, it was a version of ransomware. It got on your computer, it started encrypting all the files, and just like a ransom, if you want your files back, you needed to pay. Now, in other videos, we'll talk about how to keep from having to pay those ransoms. But folks, these are becoming so commonplace that even a college in Los Angeles in January, I think of 2017, paid $20,000 in hopes of getting the key. They supposedly did get the key. They paid the ransom and got their data back. But folks, all you need to do is back up to get your data back. If you have a backup of your data, who cares if somebody wipes it, or if your hard drive fails, or if somebody spills water on it, or your dog eats your computer? You can get to the data. So digital security risks, unauthorized access and use. So we tend to think of that as someone hacking into a system or hacking into some software. A virus attack. The ransomware is basically a virus that encrypts your computer. Hardware theft, well, that too is a security risk. As we get all these mobile computers in your mobile phone, how easy would it be for somebody to steal your phone? And if you don't have a password on it, or you're not using fingerprint readers, what kind of data do you store on there? Do you save your username and password for your bank account? That 5 minutes on your phone, I could clean out your bank account. By the way, this stuff is not really meant to scare you, but I'm hoping it educates you to think about maybe how lax you are with computers and how easy it might be to get data. Information theft is something we commonly hear about. I'm going to share some of those with you. Credit card number theft, for example, ID fraud, where people get enough information to take out a credit card in your name and you're not monitoring your credit. You don't know about it. They use the credit card. You have great credit. They get a $10,000 limit. They rack it up. And now the credit card company is calling you saying, when are you going to make a payment? So even down to illegal copying. So folks, you'll hear about me talking about this. If you're downloading music from the web that you're not paying for, or you don't have a service that allows you to listen to that music legally, you're committing fraud, basically. Copyright infringement. And yes, people do it because they say, oh, they're not going to catch me on the web, but who knows, one of these days. So security risks, hacker or a cracker, somebody cracking software. A script kiddie, that tends to be someone who doesn't have a lot of experience. Script kiddies will tend to utilize other hackers' hacking abilities, other hackers' codes, other hackers' viruses, or spear phishing attacks to get into computers. So they didn't necessarily write the code. Today, by the way, on the dark web, folks, you can go out and download viruses, take down networks that you have access to using someone else's software. So corporate spies, unethical employees, cyber extortionists, that's kind of what the ransomware folks are, or cyber terrorists. And yes, the most current ransomware, sorry I don't remember the name, actually doesn't want you to pay the ransom. It's just literally meant to destroy data, to be this thing that you download, it destroys all your data. Hey, tough luck. You're out of luck unless you have a backup. Internet and network attacks, so information transmitted over networks, has a higher degree of security risk than information kept on an organization's premises. Well, understand, anytime we take a local network and connect it to the internet, there's a pathway for someone to get in. So whereas before, say, let's go back to our example of stealing music. A lot of people who will right-click and download an MP3 from the web, via a pirate site, for example, wouldn't have the gall to walk into a local store, take a CD off the shelf, and stick it in their pocket and walk out. But essentially, they're doing the exact same thing. So back, malware, short malicious software, consists of programs that act without a user's knowledge. So spyware is a great example where you download, say, a free software on the web, something you think is cool, or on your phone, and with it comes some spyware. Information is sent back to servers on what you're surfing on the web, where you go, what URL bank you use, for example. And from that, I can then do additional attacks to act as if you're U.S. Bank. Oh, hey, Eric, we know you bank with U.S. Bank, and we are U.S. Bank, and we think you've been hacked. And if you just give us your username and password right here in this site that looks like U.S. Bank's site but isn't, we suddenly have your username and password, and we'll gladly log into your account and take your money. Yes, folks, it works that easily. If you can log in with your username and password, so can someone else. So how can a virus spread? Well, programmers create a virus program that deletes all files. They hide the virus in a word processing document, so as an attachment or a macro, for example, in your email. Okay, and they email it to you. It looks like something that you're comfortable opening up with, so you open it up. That instantiates the virus on your computer. They send the email out. Some users open the attachment and their computers become infected with the virus. And then finally, other users do not recognize the name of the sender of the email. These users do not open the email. So if you open those emails from people you're not expecting attachments from, you might get the virus. Now here's the other sneaky thing. Sometimes in doing this, the virus folks, if they get the virus on your computer, will take all of your contacts in your email and send it as if it's coming from you. So now suddenly your friends and family are going to be so happy with you that your computer got infected, and thus they got an email from you, they trust you, they open it up, and their computer gets infected as well. So a couple types of infections. So a botnet is a group of compromised computers or mobile devices connected to a network. A compromised computer is also known as a zombie. So, using public terms we're used to. So the idea behind a botnet is many computers will act as one computer or as many computers to do like what is next, a denial of service attack. So I take all those computers in my botnet, all the zombies, millions of computers around the world, and I tell them to attack Amazon at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and all those computers attack. And what they do is they say, Amazon, can you hear me? Amazon, can you fill my order? Amazon, I'm trying to get to you. So many computers hit the website at one point that legitimate traffic, legitimate shoppers cannot get to the website. So that's a denial of service attack. And of course, the smaller the company and the smaller the footprint, the fewer servers they have to respond. Because if they only get, say, 100 customers an hour, they might only need one server. It's going to be easier to attack them with fewer computers and take down the ability for their legitimate customers to reach their site. A backdoor is a program or set of instructions in a program that allows users to bypass security controls. So basically, they put a backdoor in a program, you download the program, they suddenly have access to your computer. One of the most common ones today is spoofing. It's a technique where intruders use to make their network or internet transmission appear legitimate. We also see spoofing in emails where I try to be somebody I'm not inside of an organization. Example of that, Southern Oregon University received an email from what was supposed to be someone at a contractor that said, "We're done with the job. You know we're done with the job. Now send us our $1.9 million and please send it to the account number in the email. Wire transfer it to that account number." Well, yeah, you know where this is going. Basically, instead of calling up the contractor and saying, "Hey, we just want to make sure we're transferring $1.9 million. Are you really sure this is your account number? We want to make sure." They just went ahead and did it. And folks, $1.9 million is gone. Now, of course, they're investigating, but getting that money back, that's going to be tough. So a firewall is hardware and or software that protects network resources from intrusion. So think about it like the firewall in your car. It is designed that if there's a fire in the engine compartment, it's not going to make its way into the cabin. Okay, it gives you time to get out and be safe. Well, here on the internet, we have many ports, many things that we do through the firewall. So if I want to surf the web, I utilize a port called port 80, and it goes out of the firewall and into the big I internet. Now, if in my firewall, I leave that port open, then any hacker could come in through port 80 and affect my network, get on devices here. So what a firewall does is basically allows me to do outbound traffic without accepting inbound traffic. And what it does is it'll say, "Hey, I'm going to open up this port, and I see you're going to go to Amazon. Go out to Amazon. Now, Amazon better respond within 20 milliseconds, because if not, I'm going to close this port so that it can't get back in." So I'm trying to keep it basic here for y'all. I'm hoping this makes sense. Now, unauthorized access and use. So access to a computer to use without permission, that's unauthorized. So literally, folks, this might be an employee who shares their username and password because somebody just needs something really quick, except they have higher credentials than the employee asking for the information. They share it. They use that to go places and see data, see files, see folders, see things on the local network that they would not be able to see with their username and password. That's unauthorized access. And by the way, folks, most of you today are signing an end user license agreement with companies on how you can use those resources. Okay? So use of a computer or its data for unapproved or possible illegal activities. So again, I get your credit card number and I use it. That's illegal. Unauthorized access and use, a little bit more. So organizations take several measures to help prevent. Acceptable use policy, making sure you're not surfing the web, you're not going places you shouldn't. I'm not a disable file and print sharing, so you're not going to be able to share files from your computer, for example, not shared videos, pictures, etc. I'm basically locking it down for the function that it's intended to do a job. Okay? So what's really a very unsecure computer? That's the one you use at home to surf the web, to get your Netflix, to get on Facebook, etc. Lots of ways for people to, and then you find this really cool program and you download it. Suddenly you've got malware on your computer. So folks, make sure you're downloading software from reputable companies. And if you have a question, go out and Google search the software. See if other people maybe have, posted, "Hey, don't download this free watch the kitty mess up the toilet paper roll video because it's got some nasty software in with it." So access controls define who can access a computer, the device, or the network. We all see these. We want to look for the HTTPS. Make sure it's present before we put in our username and password so that we know our username and password is being sent over that big I internet, over the web, in encrypted information. Folks, passwords. Let me just quickly pause here. I'm going to bring up a website with the top 25 passwords that are still being used today. Hold on. All right, so all I did was Google search most common passwords of 2017. I happen to like this one the best, the one at the top. That's why it's at the top. It's the most popular. The world's most common passwords revealed. Are you using them? Well, let's go take a look at the list. Hopefully this doesn't shock you, but here's the passwords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, this person got unique with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's QWERTY. QWERTY keyboard, QWERTY. Notice number 8 is even password. Folks, I'm serious. These are passwords that people use. These are the most common passwords of 2017. You can go out and find other webs. What does this mean? Well, if I'm a hacker and I have your email and I want to see if I can hack into your email, I'm going to see if maybe you've used one of these top 25 passwords. Because maybe you have. Now, let me give you some impacts of some most recent hacks. I want to give credit where credit is due. This is a lecture that got posted out on YouTube, so it's public. I actually participated in the live version of this. It was an hour long, talking about major security data breaches. Some of you might remember Yahoo in 2016. Over 1 billion user records, usernames, passwords, emails were stolen. What was the impact financially? Well, it was the largest breach in the history of the internet, supposedly. And what it impacted was Verizon was looking to buy Yahoo at the time. They reduced their offering price $350 million. By the way, I happened to do a little research. That's about 7% decrease in the asking price for the sale because they got hacked. Okay, here's a little bit more. I just saved these, paused these. So Office of Personal Management, OPM, by the way, this is a government agency. What got stolen? 21.5 million background checks, including SF-86 forms, and 5.6 million fingerprint records. What could we do with fingerprints? This is probably one of those, hey, let's see if we can hack in. Look how easy that was. The Anthem breach, if you're not familiar with the company Anthem, look them up. What got stolen? 80 million customer records. What was the impact? Well, at that time, more than 100 lawsuits. And if you know anything about lawsuits today, they tend to start out with $1 million and $2 million and $5 million. So you can see that even a small company who loses, say, 200 personal records of customers could be looking at millions of dollars in lawsuits. How to get done, root cause. So it's a spear phishing compromise of a database credentials. Basically, I'm going to simplify this, but somebody basically said, hey, I need the username and password into this database. And somebody said, oh, sure. Yeah, you're someone in the company. Sure you are. And gave it to them. My final example here, the Target breach. I'm sure you all have heard about this. I hope you've listened to the news back in 2013. 40+ million credit card numbers. $250 million in breach costs, which means paying companies who had to reissue credit cards, who had to cancel credit cards. The reputation was astonishing. How did it happen? The root cause? It was phishing and malware. So third-party vetting and integration. What that means is that a third-party site that processed credit cards for Target is what really got hit. Target wasn't aware of it. The company wasn't aware of it. And this hack went on for months, proceeding, like I said, in 40 million credit cards being hacked. All right. So some things to look at. Again, yeah, I'm not really trying to scare you. I'm just trying to educate you in thinking about what it is that creates good passwords. Here's the thing. A passphrase. It's a private combination of words, often containing mixed capitalization and punctuation associated with the username that allows access to a certain computer resource. So folks, instead of me using eric.magidson@gmail as my username, I might come up with something, I don't know, I can actually change my username. Even though that's my name, you can change your username. How about using Rumpelstiltskin, for example? Okay, now don't use that, okay, because I put that in a video on YouTube. But then for a passphrase, instead of using password or using capital P at $W0RD, like I wouldn't try that to see if you were intelligent enough to use special characters in uppercase, I'm going to use a passphrase. First of all, it's longer. It's easier for me to remember. Okay? So something like farms for farmers, or, farmy farmer fank, something like that. And then I might change the F to a PH. It's something easily remembered. Somebody's just not going to guess that. Not going to find that in a dictionary, for example. Or I can put a couple words together, thermonuclear global warming, and then use that as my password. Another way, folks, is password safes. I'll be talking about these in class. That's where you don't even need to know what the password is. You have a master password into the vault. You can attach this to your browser, to your phone, and the phone will use the password as soon as you, go down to the next thing, authenticate with your biometric fingerprint or your biometric retinal scanner, for example. So unauthorized use, fingerprint reader, facial recognition system, hand geometry system, voice verification system, signature verification. Some of these are pretty common today. We find fingerprints on your smartphone, for example. We find facial recognition on smartphones and on laptops and computers and built into operating systems. When we get into things like retinal, deep eye retinal scanners, they tend to be cost prohibitive right now for everybody to initiate. But, frankly, I'll put one in if I'm, behind that door is $6.7 billion worth of server equipment. I want to know who's getting in. One of the best ways you all can protect yourself is with two-step verification. So what this does is it uses separate methods, one after the next, to verify the identity of a user. So here's a great example of this, folks. What I can do with Google, and I have two-step verification turned on, is when I log into a computer with my email and my password on a new computer that it doesn't recognize, that I haven't saved in my account, to tell Google, hey, this one's good, my phone's good, don't always ask me for the second password. At that point, what it'll do is it'll pop up on my phone and it'll say, hey, are you trying to access your email? If you are, we've put a number on the screen. We've given you 3 possibilities here. Pick the number and we'll know that it's you accessing your email. Folks, I highly suggest you do that on everything that offers it. Because here's the thing, if somebody gets your username and password because you've used some silly username, they're going to be able to get to your data. But suddenly, if they have to have this second authentication that's coming to your phone and your phone alone, they now not only need to know something you are, your username and a password, but they also need to have something you have. And giving up your phone is probably not something anybody's going to do. So here's where things have gone wrong and we need to figure it out, and that's in digital forensics. If you've ever watched any of those CSI forensics shows, you know how this works in the physical world. Well, this is in the digital world. We'll discover, collect, and analyze the evidence found on computers and networks. This might be actually watching a hacker hack into the system. So law enforcement, criminal prosecutions, military intelligence, insurance agencies, information security departments. So they actually sell insurance where you can protect yourself against your network being hacked. And if it does, they have experts that'll come in and try to figure out who it was and at minimum what was hacked. So one of the things we learn in cybersecurity is the worst thing you can do when you notice you're being hacked is lock the hacker out, turn off the computer. The hacker's going to know they got discovered and you're not going to be able to see where they were going. So if we know a hacker's in there, law enforcement, the FBI will sometimes encourage you not to shut the hacker out so that they can come and see where the hacker's going and see if the hacker's gotten to the data that would constitute a hack. All right, so I think that's enough for this one. Tune in again and we'll continue with the Chapter 5 lecture. Take care.